Dr. Mark Jangizi here with your Science Moment. I have never enjoyed baseball, never enjoyed playing, never enjoyed watching it. And I think it was probably maybe 7 years ago that I was probably in my mid-40s. And my mom got really into it with her husband, and I was at home visiting for some reason and there for a few days. And so I was just sitting there watching them watch it. And I developed a bit of an appreciation for it that I thought I'd describe to you. And there's a sort of a mathematical appreciation for baseball that I hadn't quite realized until I sort of was stuck in front of watching it for quite a while. And there's a sense in which baseball is a lot like the card game, bullshit, right? And so it's a very socio-emotional kind of game because bullshit is a very socio-emotional game. So let's just remind you about what bullshit is. You're given a whole bunch of cards. I can't remember the details. We're each given a big pile of cards, and our goal is to get rid of our cards. So if I have, let's say, 3 twos, I'll just I'll hold them in a tight pack, right? Maybe I have to show that there's 3. That's right. I show that I've got 3 cards. I don't show you what the cards are, but I show I've got 3 cards. I say there are 3 twos, and I put them down on the stack. Now, I might be lying, and in which case I only have 2 twos, or none of them might be twos, let's say. And I put them down, and if nobody says anything, I get away with it, because you're trying to get rid of all of your cards. But if I do lie, and someone says bullshit, then I get all the cards that are on the table, and I'm stuck with a lot of cards, right? So that would be bad if someone says bullshit and I'm lying. But it's good for me if I can get away with a lie. Alternatively, if I just tell the truth, I really do have 3 twos, and I put it down, well, then what you really want the other person to do is to say bullshit then, because if they say bullshit when you were telling the truth, then they have to take all the cards in the middle of the table. And in some sense, it's bad for me if you don't say bullshit when I was telling the truth, because sort of it's a lost opportunity. I was hoping you would call me on it when in fact I was telling the truth, in which case it's sort of negative for me if I tell the truth and you don't in fact call bullshit. So it's a very heady game because of course I can sometimes get called on bullshit because you just actually have more cards than make sense for what I'm claiming, right? So sometimes it's just you have direct contradictory information. But very often it's not that way because other people, if there's 3 players or 4 players, you don't know what other people have and they each don't know what. So it's consistent with what you know that the person really could have that many cards. And you have to just go on your gut. There's a little bit of sort of general stats and you're like, well, what are the odds of that? But there's just a lot of it is just on your gut as to what you think the other person is doing. Do they seem to be lying? And so you don't want to lie all the time, right? You want to lie some of the time. You need to mix it up in such a way that you can trick them into saying bullshit when you're telling the truth, and you can get them to not say bullshit when in fact you're lying. Ideally, you'd be on the off diagonal in this little matrix here, so that way you're, in some sense, winning every time. Now this strategy, this kind of game strategy with this 2x2 matrix, is a very general kind of thing that can happen in offense and defense. So here's just sort of a general version of it. So just imagine it's just a general, any old kind of game where I've got 2 cards, A and B, and you've got 2 kinds of cards, A and B, and I'm on offense, and I secretly am going to just put down a card, A or B, and basically to defend it, you have to just put the same card that in which case you defend it, it's your win, or if you fail to put the same kind of card, I win, because you didn't put up the right kind of defense. So I don't know what you're going to do, you don't know, and there's no that happens all at the same time, right? So it's just a guessing game. What is he going to do? Is he going to do A or B, is what the defense is thinking, and I'm as the offense thinking is, what do I think he's going to do, because I'm going to try to do the opposite, whereas he's trying to do the same to block me, right? And it's that's a general kind of structure that bullshit is. And here's the sense in which I thought that it made baseball more interesting. And we've all known this for years that it's always said, like, by the time the batter has any idea where the ball is going, it's too late. He's already got to start swinging even before the ball has left the hand. So what you can, obviously there's a lot of physicality to the kinds of pitch and the kind of batter and all this. But imagine that you take all of that away and you just have the batter, you just have the pitcher up there and he's just putting a card down. He's just going to put hittable. He's just decided he's going to do a hittable. It's like putting A down. It's going to be a hittable pitch. In other words, he's going to put it in the strike zone. It's going to be hittable. Or he can choose to make it out of the strike zone, sort of unhittable. Right? And he's not even going to throw it anymore. He's just going to just put A or B. It's going to be hittable or unhittable. And then the batter is just going to decide simultaneously in parallel. He's going to say, I'm going to swing or choose not to swing. And the rules of this simple game is he's going to put A or B down as well. And the rules are such that if I, as the pitcher, throw a hittable one and he does swing, well, then it definitely gets him on base, right? There's no ambiguity. Definitely on base. Whereas if I throw it hittable and he refuses to swing, well, it's a strike because he didn't swing and it was in the strike zone. Alternatively, if I throw an unhittable one and if he swings, he's guaranteed to miss because it wasn't even hittable. But if he refuses to swing, well, then that was in some sense good for him, bad for me, because now it's a ball. He sort of realized that I was going to throw an unhittable pitch, so he chose to not swing. Right? And you can see immediately it has the same exact structure as bullshit. And of course, in this case, I have 4 opportunities to get a ball. In which case, if I get 4 balls, that is, I throw something unhittable, and he calls me on it in some sense and realizes it, and then refuses to swing, then he gets on base automatically, and he gets 3 strikes. But it really so it's a little bit different game than bullshit in terms of the larger repetition of this game, but it still has the key fundamental properties. And what is interesting about baseball is that it really refines it because the pitches are so fast and they come so quickly, and then your decisions have to occur so quickly that it really doesn't matter that much about the physicality of the sport. It's often much more about these mind games that are going on. Now, we see this in soccer as well when there's shootouts. But here there's a lot of, you can come up and they hesitate and they shoot. There's a lot more going on, but you can often still summarize this as if the shooter is going to just choose to shoot left or shoot right, and the goalie is going to choose to jump left or jump right, and you can sum it all up there, and it ends up to be a very similar game. But I think it's even more refined in baseball, and the sequence of these things, and knowing that you can only do a certain number of times before you get 4 balls or the person can get 3 strikes, makes it more mathematically interesting. And I think this could change the way one thinks about the game. I think actual people who watch the game know this in their bones. They don't necessarily think about it mathematically and compare it to bullshit, but that's what makes it so much fun, is that there's this hidden, out in the open game of bullshit that's going on constantly in baseball. And I think it occurs sort of at many different levels in lots of different games, but it's so intermingled with the physicality that it just dirties, in some sense, the clear, clean mathematical head game that's going on in baseball. So I hope that changes the way you think about baseball, changed the way I think about baseball, and made it more interesting to watch. And that was your science moment. If you're interested in why we have emotional expressions, get a copy of Dr. Tim Barber in my most recent book, The Censored One, not covered anywhere because the federal government, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, all of the science journalists censored us because we were COVID dissidents pushing freedom instead of civil liberties violating interventions. Get a copy at Amazon of Expressly Human.